What's up, guys? Neil Orfield here, and I'm going to show you how I'll be setting up my fantasy cruncher for the Sunday night football game between the 49ers and the Cowboys. I'll be setting up here for the largest field GPP on DraftKings. First thing I'm going to do, as I always do, is make sure I've got my columns the way I want them. Looks like I may already have them there with ownership projections, which of course we don't have yet for the Sunday night football game, my projection, exposure cap, and then how much I get of players once I have run some crunches. That's what I want to see in the middle of my screen. Next thing I do is I sort by projection and remove every player who has a projection of 0, just so that they are not going to be there when I'm making groups, slowing me down. So I'm just clicking, dragging, getting rid of all these players. Okay. And then finally, I'm going to go into the captain tab, and I am going to set an exposure cap on all players in the captain tab at 20%. Nothing magical about this number. This just means that you're going to have at least 5 if you run 10 lineups, 150 lineups, you're going to have at least 5 different captains in there. Okay. Next, I'm going to go into advanced options. I'll be working in 2 tabs here, the general tab and the groups tab. Notice in the groups tab, I already have a couple groups saved for the Saturday night football game. I'm about to start working on those lineups, so you can ignore these. They shouldn't be there. Okay, starting in the general tab, unique players per lineup, I'm going to leave at 1. That is the default. I'm setting up for 150 lineups here. If I were setting up for 40 or fewer lineups, I would probably change this to 2 unique players per lineup, just for the sake of diversifying my lineup set. Salary cap, I'm not going to set a minimum. I will set a maximum, just for the purpose of avoiding the most duplicated lineups. If I'm lucky enough to win, I want to win a lot of money. I don't want to be duplicated 1,000 times, splitting that top prize. So I want to avoid those highly duped lineups. I set a salary cap of 49,000, so leaving 1,000 on the table, because most people like to use the full salary cap or close to it when they're making lineups. Don't want to be duplicated by all those players. Offense players versus defense, the default is set to a max of 2 players. I'm going to change this to 5 players. So I could theoretically have 5 players from the Cowboys against just the Niners defense, or 5 players from the Niners against just the Cowboys defense. It's not something that wins all that often. It's not something that I play all that often, but it is something that can win. And if it projects well enough, there's no reason that you can't have that kind of lineup in there. So I'm just allowing for a 5 versus the defense lineup in my lineup sets. Exposure cap, I'm going to leave at 100%. I already changed it to 20% in the captain field specifically. And then randomness, I'm going to set it to 30%. If you want more control over your lineups, use less randomness. I know some players who use 0 randomness because they want complete control over their lineups. That's not the way I play. I'm setting it at 30%. And then minimum projection included in calculation, the default is set to 3. If I'm going to leave it at 3, and if there's a player who I want to have in my player pool who projects for fewer than 3 fantasy points, I'm just going to manually boost their projection to make sure it's above 3 fantasy points to get them into my player pool. And then finally, players from each team max default is set to 5. I'm going to leave that at 5. So again, I can have 5 players from one team against just 1 player from the other team. You know what I did immediately the first time I won 6 figures in a DFS contest? I converted my trial membership to Stokastic, awesome at the time, to a full annual subscription. That's because I knew these were the best tools in the industry. That was 2019, and they've gotten even better since then. Well, good news, you can get access to these same tools without winning 6 figures first with a great offer from BetMGM. You can get 2 months of Stokastic Plus Platinum when you sign up, deposit, and bet at least $10. That's every tool on the site for every sport other than Fantasy Cruncher, a $240 value. All you need to do is click the link in the description of this video, follow the steps, and deposit $10 or more, and place a bet of $10 or more on whatever you want. And when that bet settles, MGM will hit you up with how to get your subscription to Stokastic. You don't even need to win the bet. On top of all that, you also get bet insurance on your first bet up to $1,000. That means if you win the bet, you get the money. If you lose the bet, you still get your money back and site credits. It's a great deal from BetMGM and a long trial subscription to the best DFS tools out there. The legal age for gambling in most states is 21 plus, and if you or someone you know has a gambling problem, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. Reminder, make sure you use the link or use promo code PLATINUMSUB, or we won't be able to track you. All right, going into the groups tab, and again, ignore these ones. I'm going to be creating new groups for this game surrounding the quarterbacks, starting with a Brock Purdy captain group. So I'm making Brock Purdy a captain, my key player. I'm going to rename this group Purdy captain. Next, I'm going to sort by position and add all of these Niners pass catchers to the secondary group, starting with Ray McLeod, Juwan Jennings, Debo, Ayuk, Kittle, Croft, Gray, Juszczyk, McCaffrey, Eli Mitchell. I'm including the running backs in this group. They're involved enough in the passing game. And then Purdy, he's rushed like something like 22 times for 13 yards or something this year, and he's started 5 games. So not much of a runner. He has scored a couple touchdowns on the ground, so hard to say that he doesn't have at least a little bit of rushing upside given the 2 touchdowns in 5 starts. So I think that it's viable to play Purdy at captain with just one pass catcher in the flex. I am going to require at least one pass catcher. So I'm going to leave this rule exactly as it is, requiring one pass catcher when I've got Purdy at captain. And then I'm also going to give boost to the pass catchers to make it more likely that I get to multiple. Running backs, maybe I'll leave them in there, but not give any kind of boost. So I'd be okay with them with getting to Purdy with just McCaffrey or Juszczyk or Mitchell, but I'm not going to give them boost to make it more likely I get to these others. Yeah, I'll leave it at that. All right. Next, I'm going to create a group for Dak at captain. Name that right away. And Dak in the captain spot, make him my key player. And then I'm going to add all of these Cowboys pass catchers to the secondary group. All 10 of their tight ends. Going to include the running backs as well. A little bit more questionable, but still somewhat involved in the passing game. Okay. Dak, similar story. He's rushed for about 15 yards per game this year. He showed a lot of rushing upside early in his career. Recent years, not quite as much. I do think that he has enough rushing upside that I'm willing to play him in the captain spot with just one receiver, but I am going to require at least one pass catcher in there. And then again, I'm going to give boost to all the other pass catchers to make it more likely I get to multiple. Again, the running backs, maybe I'll give Pollard a little bit of a boost because he doesn't project all that well point per dollar, unlike McCaffrey. That's part of my hesitation with McCaffrey is he already projects so well point per dollar. I'm concerned I'm going to run into a lot of Purdy at captain with just McCaffrey lineups as is. Don't have that same concern with Pollard. Zeke, not as much of a pass catcher. Okay, I'm going to leave it at that. And then I'm going to make a couple more groups. First a Purdy flex group. Going to find Brock Purdy in the flex, make him my key player. And then once again, I'm going to add all of these Niners pass catchers to the secondary group. And then now, because I have Purdy in the flex, I can add all of these Niners pass catchers in the captain spot as well. Okay. All right, there you have it. There's my Purdy flex group. Now I'm going to make a Dak flex group. All right, so I'm finding Dak in the flex, making him my key player. And then I'm going to go ahead and add all of these Cowboys pass catchers to secondary group. And again, now I've got Dak in the flex, so I can add them also in the captain spot. All right, good enough. And that'll do it for both of these groups. All I'm doing is adding the players. So I'm just saying I'm requiring at least one Niners pass catcher in every lineup that has Brock Purdy in it, even if he's in the flex. And then same thing for Dak Prescott. All right, so that'll do it for my groups for now. Of course, this is trial and error. Maybe I'll have to come back and adjust, but for now, I think that looks good. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and crunch out 150 lineups using my projections. See how they look. All right, so this is the final steps, and of course, it's all trial and error, like I said. So I can go back and adjust those groups if I need to, but basically the next step is I'm looking at the lineups, seeing if they correlate the way I want them to, and then I go position by position. I look at my exposure levels for each player and check if I'm getting approximately how much I want of each player. So first, looking at the lineups themselves, this one has Brock Purdy at captain. We have multiple pass catchers from the Niners. That's what I like to see. I think that this lineup looks totally fine. Next, we've got Dalton Schultz at captain, no Dak. Again, I think that's totally fine. I did not require Dak in lineups with Schultz at captain. And then we've also got Purdy with McCaffrey, Debo, Ayuk, Gould. Looks good. We've got McCaffrey at captain. Here we have Dak in the flex, and we've got him paired with Dalton Schultz, so that looks good. Now we've got Dak in the captain with CD and Dalton Schultz. That's what I like to see, multiple pass catchers. Purdy with just Eli Mitchell. It's a little bit thin, but, Eli Mitchell, I think, had 3 targets in the last game on just 4 routes run. Certainly alive to score a receiving touchdown. I think that this is a viable lineup. Here we've got Purdy in the flex. We got Ayuk at captain with Debo and McCaffrey. I think that's fine. Purdy in the flex as well. And then Robbie Gould and Dalton Schultz coming back from the Cowboys. Dak with TY. Purdy with Debo and McCaffrey and Gould a captain. Looks okay. Yeah, in general, I would say I am okay with these lineups. I don't see any that look like they're not viable. Okay, so here's the first one that I'm a little bit questionable. Dak at captain with just one pass catcher. But again, he has shown some rushing upside, rushing for about 15 yards per game this season. Certainly could score a touchdown on the ground. Also, sometimes you see quarterbacks more willing to run in the playoffs. So maybe Dak ups his running game a little bit. I think I'm okay with Dak with just one pass catcher in some of my lineups. I'd like to see more than one pass catcher in a majority. Here's another one with Dak, just Dalton Schultz. I'd rather see more in most of them, but if I see some lineups with Dak and just one, so here's Dak with Dalton, Dak with Gallup, Dak with Dalton and Gallup. So we're seeing a mix here of Dak with multiple or just one pass catcher, but looks like the majority have multiple, which is my preference. You know what I did immediately the first time I won 6 figures in a DFS contest? I converted my trial membership to Stokastic, awesome at the time, to a full annual subscription. That's because I knew these were the best tools in the industry. That was 2019, and they've gotten even better since then. Well, good news, you can get access to these same tools without winning 6 figures first with a great offer from BetMGM. You can get 2 months of Stokastic Plus Platinum when you sign up, deposit, and bet at least $10. That's every tool on the site for every sport other than Fantasy Cruncher, a $240 value. All you need to do is click the link in the description of this video, follow the steps, and deposit $10 or more, and place a bet of $10 or more on whatever you want. And when that bet settles, MGM will hit you up with how to get your subscription to Stokastic. You don't even need to win the bet. On top of all that, you also get bet insurance on your first bet up to $1,000. That means if you win the bet, you get the money. If you lose the bet, you still get your money back and site credits. It's a great deal from BetMGM and a long trial subscription to the best DFS tools out there. The legal age for gambling in most states is 21 plus, and if you or someone you know has a gambling problem, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. Reminder, make sure you use the link or use promo code PLATINUMSUB or we won't be able to track you. All right. And then the next step, I look through position by position. How much am I getting of different players? Am I happy with that number? And I'm going to sort by salary here. All right, so only getting to 19% Dak. Hard to know how much I really want without knowing ownership. But my guess is I'm going to want more than 19% of Dak Prescott on a 1-game slate. Maybe not. He is very expensive. 11,000 is quite a price tag. But if I want more, I would just go ahead and give him a little bit of a projection boost. Same thing at running back. I'm getting to a ton of CMC. Probably okay. It's right around the same price as Dak. Projects better. Getting a lot there. Uh, Maybe I'll cut back slightly though. So normally I say that, and then I'm gonna say normally I don't actually cut back on projections right away. I start by giving projection boosts and then cutting back later on. Maybe I'll start by doing that because the reason I'm thinking about doing it right now is because there is a pretty big gap in the projections between Dak and CMC. Probably not going to get a ton with both of them together, given that I set a salary cap. Maybe I'll cut back just right away on McCaffrey. Still probably going to get a lot. Only getting to 9% Pollard. He's got some PPR upside. I think I'd rather get to more than 9%. So I'm going to give him a little bit of a boost. Maybe Zeke also. He's got a pretty nice price tag. He should get plenty of usage. So 6% seems a little bit low. Give him a boost. Eli Mitchell, I'm going to leave right where he is for now. And then Kyle Juszczyk, I'll get him into the player pool. We're not going to want a ton. Probably leave Malik Davis out. Wide receivers getting to 29% CeeDee Lamb seems about right. 54% Debo, that's a lot. I'll leave it there. Ayuk 30% seems fine. Gallup 15% seems okay. Maybe a little bit more Gallup. Juwan Jennings getting to 1% currently. Maybe I want a little bit more than that, depending on how much he comes in. And if the field's getting to 3% Juwan Jennings, I'll probably want to get above that number. If the field's getting to 20% Juwan Jennings, I'd probably be happy staying under that number. Trying to get to more than 1% for now. And Noah Brown, man, we really think T.Y. Hilton has taken over for Noah Brown. Again, it's going to come down to what our projected ownership is. But if we're getting low projected ownership on Noah Brown, I might take some gambles there, try and get a little bit more. I'll try and get some more for now. Ray McLeod, Danny Gray, I'm going to leave them out for now. Tight ends, only getting to 10% Kittle. He does seem to have had some nice games with Purdy, so I'm going to get him in there a little bit more. Ferguson, I think you can like him in the player pool. I'm going to leave out these other tight ends for now. Kickers, yeah, 71% Robbie Gould is a little bit much. I'm going to leave him there for now. Hopefully I'll get less since I have adjusted other players. Brett Maher, man, is he even going to be the kicker tomorrow? I don't even know. I'm going to leave him in for now. And then defenses, yeah, these are not getting much of these defenses, and they are two very good defenses. I'm going to give a little bump there. And then the Cowboys playing against the rookie quarterback. I think I'm going to take some shots there. All right, so now I'll crunch it out again. And of course, I should give the caveat now that this isn't my final process. Like I'm going to go through this after I get inactives tomorrow night. So these aren't like my final numbers here. I'm just trying to show you my general approach, my process, and then my thought process as I go. I will probably do a little bit more research before the slate. So some things might change here, but I'm just giving you a general idea of the way I think about it. And so I see I'm getting a little bit more of the defenses. Maybe I'll want even more. Give them a little bit of a bigger boost. Kickers, yeah, no, I'm just going to cut back a little bit on Gould. Not much confidence in Maher. We'll see what his ownership comes in at. I could see it being pretty depressed after that game last week. Probably don't want 13.3% Jake Ferguson. Reasonable number for these other guys. So I'll just cut back slightly on Ferguson. All right, now I'm getting a little bit more Noah Brown. I think I might want even more than that. And I can see if I give him a projection of 6, I'm likely to still get less than what I'm getting of T.Y. Hilton. Maybe not. Sorry, he's less expensive, so maybe that's not a sure thing there. This actually, I might get more Noah Brown than T.Y. Hilton. And then Juwan Jennings, currently not getting any. Maybe I'll give him a little bit of a boost. Gallup, bring him up a little bit more. I'll leave these others where they are. All right, so I cut back a little bit on my McCaffrey, getting still not much Pollard, Zeke, Eli, cut back a little bit. Maybe I'll get more, and then Juszczyk. Maybe I'll try and bring him up slightly. And finally, the quarterbacks. Yeah, still not getting much Dak. He still projects pretty low relative to CMC. So maybe I'll give Dak just a little bit more of a boost. And then I'll crunch again. I'm going to leave it at this. I'm not going to keep crunching and crunching, but you can see kind of the process. As you can see, I'm getting down now. I'm at 59% McCaffrey plus 20%. So I'm at 79% McCaffrey. That seems more reasonable than the 100% that I was getting before, close to it. So, evening things out just a little bit. But I'm not going to go through my entire process, just trying to show you. I mean, this is basically my process. I just repeat these steps over and over until I get the lineups that I want. So just go through position by position, and I go back and forth over and over until I get to exposure levels that I'm comfortable with on every player. And that's essentially the process. And I, of course, double check the lineups, make sure that they are still correlating well. If they're not, go back to advanced options, and in that groups tab, adjust it slightly. And of course, you can also, if you are thinking that your lineups just look all dead, even after you get to exposure levels that you like, if you see these lineups just don't look good enough, they don't have enough star power, you can of course go back into advanced options and change, maybe you bring this up to 49,400. You can make adjustments like that as you go until you get lineup sets that you think look good. But that is the general process. That'll do it for this video. Good luck tomorrow night, probably tonight by the time you're watching this. Hope you can find some success using this or a similar process.